okay, we're going to redefine some of our, when we're going to open a case, we're going to bring them in, and if they're within, you know, X amount of years of old of each other, we're not going to open a case on that because we're going to cut our numbers somehow and balance our budget somehow. So if the kids are only 4 years apart, we're not going to open a case on it. Well, that there again impacts us. Not that that's not happening, but there isn't a case to come into us because we don't create the cases. They do when they bring them to us. So I think, and I'm not sure if that's universal throughout the state.
Well,
I think
yeah,
that's
right
part
now
of
it's
the northern region.
Northern
that's
region is doing that.
So-
If there's less than 4 years difference between a perpetrator and a victim, they don't open a case. So if I've got a 10-year-old and 13-year-old, it's not open. You know, because law enforcement's not going to pursue anybody, law enforcement's not going to charge anybody, and so DCFS is saying it's not child abuse then, because that's the definition of child abuse, if law enforcement is willing to charge somebody.
Wow.
So that is a factor.
That's a factor.
Another factor is, and this is the one that drives me crazy, and this is the one we've talked about in our board meetings, is the 14, 15, and 16-year-olds. If I got 14 and 15-year-olds having sex, nobody charges anybody. It's just, there's so much going on. So in reality, there is more child abuse going on, but it's in that range of kids where everybody's going, you know, we've got to prioritize, and so that age bracket of kids, we're just going to move on and go down to the younger kids that are, you know, the real victims. But that causes a lot of social issues and a lot of social problems when you got 14, 15-year-olds out doing all this stuff, and pregnancies going on and STDs going on, and everybody going, well, there's too much of it. So
They throw their hands up. And
yeah, exactly.
And
So
kind of
you're
the
right,
same kind of
Commissioner.
things.
There is all this stuff in our communities going on, and it's embedded in there now. And once it gets embedded in, it's impossible to get back out. But it's you know, a real social issue. But it's not numbers coming to the CJC because they're not bringing them.
And then the same kind of things kind of been going on with the ICAC stuff too, where because of some reductions there as well, then those aren't coming in. So no one of these things by itself is causing it to happen, but it's kind of cumulative. Like the child endangerment was probably 225 cases a year. You know, it's a lot of cases. And, you know.
So are they anticipating ever changing the formula for this? I mean, it doesn't, I mean, if things continue to, and it sounds like we're making progress on child abuse.
Yeah, I think we are.
So if we're making progress, and it's kind of like the federal government, they penalize you for doing well. And I'm hoping that the Attorney General's office doesn't look at it because we're doing well. I mean, we're starting to see an impact of investigations and CJCs, and you know, in a positive way, that they wouldn't look at that and go, okay, well, you know, we're seeing lower caseloads, and that means we're doing great, so we don't need as much money, or we're going to refund, you know, redirect funds and that kind of thing. So it might be time to look at a new formula. I don't know how to do.
We did that a few years ago, and it turned into a.
Yeah, I think. Yeah.
I think you were involved in that a little bit when we were trying to do formulas on what is it based on, and it's, you know, it finally come down to this: if you interview this many kids, you get that many dollars. That's how it turned out to be. Instead of looking at community dynamics and all that, it got to be so complicated as to how to bring the money or share the money that it just finally was like, you do this many interviews. But I think it does need to be reevaluated, and that was a pretty big topic of our retreat thing that we went on the other day.
But it does assume, it assumes that if you're going down in numbers now, that you're always going to go down.
Yes, I think you're right.
And
I think that we will continue
not a
to
good
drop,
assumption.
or it may not be as many. I mean, we may stay pretty neutral for a while, but we're seeing some pretty significant drops. I mean, we're 150 cases down. That's a lot of kids, you know, so it's in a couple of years, and I've gone back to 2004, 5, 6, and just shown them as they gradually went down, but it seems like in the last couple of years, it's been the biggest drop the last 2 years. And so I went back to every police department, I met with every police department and said, are you guys not bringing the kids? Are you not, is that something you're not doing? And they went back and pulled up Versadex and looked at all the cases that have been reported, and they said, no. It's we're getting less reports.
That's good.
Yeah, it is good, and it's hard to believe, and being so cynical.
Don't you
I'm like,
think some of these other issues are they're just not getting to law enforcement when you don't have the ICAC funding and you don't have the
no
cases
question,
open
that's, yeah.
for CPS and you don't, I mean, I'm not sure that they're really not there, I just think we're really not seeing them.
Right, that's what most.
I'm a little
believe.
more cynical than Rod is.
Yes.
It's not a real drop,
Yeah, but it's,
perceived, and it's,
Yeah, and societal, you know, oh, maybe that's okay with the teenagers, you know.
You know, there's a.
We can take care of them
It's
later.
gonna, you know, you have to also say, okay, do CJCs have a place? Because at some point, just because the cases are decreasing, you have certain fixed operating costs in order to exist in the community.
right,
And you can't cut to the point that you'll cut into that, because then you won't exist.
exactly, and then what my worry is that we cut and we get rid of staff, and then all of a sudden we
Spike.
spikes
It
back up.
starts to go up again.
Yeah, it starts to go back up again because we do something. I was at a conference recently, well, it's been a couple years ago, and I need to research it again, but Arizona was frustrated with this 14, 15, 16-year-old dynamics and all the stuff that was happening with the kids, so they actually formed a task force, a statewide task force that addressed those issues, and they did everything from public awareness to TV to billboards to everything, saying it is not okay for 14 and 15-year-olds to be out having sex, and if you do that, we will charge you. And if you're 14 with a 17-year-old, you're going to be charged, and they, you know, their numbers start to go back up again because they're going, we're not going to tolerate it much. And there has been some movement that direction. There's been some stuff at our symposium talking about it, but again, it comes down to what can you pay for,
Yeah.
and how many really believe that it's an issue, because some don't, including parents. It's not always an issue. So anyway, I guess the bottom line is we're looking at, you know, using all our county money, and we don't know if there's a possibility to get some more, or if that's just out of the question. If we need a little more, and we're not asking for a huge amount, we're small, but you know, is that something that's just, if we run into a crisis here? Like I said, I don't know with staff. I know a couple, you know, I know Jerry, that's the only one I know, and then I know a couple of others, and if they do have life changes here, I don't, you know, if it comes right down to it, I guess I could see if I could find another, you know, or, I don't know, I hate to get rid of people right now with the economy the way it is, but we are overstaffed too.
I just have to go back, and we were the last center to come into the county,
Right.
and we anticipated that we'd be at this point.
Yes. Yes, even though they said we would.
Even though they said we
Yes.
wouldn't. And that was our whole concern,
Right.
was once that happens, then when there are shortfalls or when we want to make cuts, they're going to put it on us.
Right.
And they've done it.
Yes.
So I just want to go back
There's no
and be a
question.
history teacher.
And Craig and I, we went to several meetings about this, and that was, when we got to those meetings, it was a whole different story from their side, going, that was never promised. That was,
We knew it would come.
yeah, I know, and they just got different
So
people in
ironic
there.
that here we are.
And we fought through that whole thing, and it was just, show us where that was ever said, and of course, you can't go back, you know, 1991 is when this started, and find that, even though it may exist somewhere, and so they're going, no, we never say anything about that. Plus, you go back to the old thing that we've talked about over and over, it's the county giving the raises, we're not. We're not giving your employees raises, the counties are, so the county should cover it. And actually, that's what a lot of counties are doing. They're just frustrated with it. They've said, okay, we'll cover COLAs and cost of living, or COLAs and merits.
Insurance and retirement.
Which we're not doing.
Yeah.